Michelle and I have known each other for years, but only recently started to really start talking about what each other does. She has an experiential hospitality background. She really ran an RV resort, concert venue, restaurant, and she was like the whole community. She was the community for this property. So she and I began talking about some of the things that we think are missing in the current environment. And we came up with this Expitality. Expitality is basically, it's called a portmanteau, but it's basically the beginning of one word, the end of an X. So experiential hospitality, mash them together, it's Expitality. So a very, very quick example of this. Jenna, you're the host of this show and we're your guests. If you had put out a survey saying, rate your career, 5, well, how satisfied are you with your career? 5. You just have data. Data doesn't create data, people create data. So what we've just done here is shared our experience, right, with you. Now you have something that says, now I understand who they are, what they've done, why it matters, what's important to them. When you go through your 4s and 5s, you have 4s and 5s, but you miss the entire context. So what Expitality aims to do, what we are doing on my way to Arizona right now with Michelle for our first client, is to humanize that whole process. So when you're creating a brand and you have a brand and you're creating experiences for your guests, look what happens there. It kind of goes top down. You start with who we are, what's our brand message, and we want them to experience that when they get there. If you give them a survey and they send you 5s, you have data. How did they feel about it? So when Michelle is out amongst guests and owners talking to them about, you start thinking about this trip, you imagine yourself there, you wonder what it'd be like, you got here, what was that like? What happens as a result of that is we can take conversations that are videotaped. They can use them as marketing collateral on their site if they'd like to. It's all theirs to own. They own the content. But when we present our findings to the owner or the manager and say, you've said this in your brand, your guests have actually told us that you missed on family friendly, but we loved the whole aesthetic. We loved the community engagement. So we can tell you what they're actually saying about how they felt about the stay. Then go back to the people crafting the brand and say, here's some what we call experiential intelligence. The guests are actually telling us this as an objective third party. If you're a staff member, it looks like a commercial. If it's a third party like Expitality, it's objective questions and data. We call it experiential intelligence because it isn't data we give you, it's intelligence. But that intelligence goes back to your brand to help drive your message. So now your branding team can go back and say, we totally missed this. They're all about the jacuzzi. We never even talk about it. They don't think we're family friendly. You can't imagine you can imagine what your brand is supposed to be. Then you hope for the best. Surveys can't tell you how your brand management is working. They just can't do it. Experiential conversations and relaying those findings is the way to get there. So Michelle and I both feel very strongly. We spent a lot of time thinking this whole thing through. We think that doing this strengthens brand, and it does one other very important thing as well. If I'm a guest at Jenna's property and somebody comes around and says, we just like to talk to you. Not surveys are great. We love data, but what's this place like for you? I, as a guest, am going to feel like ownership took the time to engage a third party to ask me how I felt about the property. If I have a choice between talking with her or circling a 5, I want to talk about it. That's the experience. That's what we're aiming to do.
And where can folks find you if they want to tap into
Expitality.com.
Okay.
EXPITALITY.